Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see y'all's notes in the chat. So excited to see so many familiar names this evening. If you haven't already joined our classes before and haven't met me, it's great to meet everyone virtually tonight. My name is Blaine Cower. I am the Vice President of Homeowner Services. I have the pleasure of working with Porfirio, Christian, Aretha, our incredible team of homeownership counselors here at Dallas Habitat. And we are so excited to have everyone tonight for this workshop for such an incredibly important topic. Tonight, we are talking about making a spending and savings plan. And if you're working in the Dallas Habitat program, you already know about how critical this topic is for financial wellness and really for building our financial foundation as we prepare to make some of the biggest financial decisions we'll ever make in our life, like buying a house. And so I could not be more excited to welcome a guest speaker for us here tonight from one of our great partners. And before I make our introduction, I just want to let you know, if you are new to attending our classes at Habitat, first of all, welcome. And second of all, I just want to let everyone know, we want to hear from you tonight. We want this class to be engaging. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered on this topic. And we certainly want to hear from you. So make sure that you drop in notes for us, any questions that you may have for us throughout tonight's presentation. As you have those questions, feel free to utilize the chat box and or the Q&A feature on your Zoom app. Either way, we promise to get to as many of those questions as we possibly can. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Blake Maples from Prosperity Bank. Welcome, Blake. Great to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, as Blaine said, I'm a banker with Prosperity Bank. I am really more of a commercial lender, but also help out on the consumer side. So that means mortgages and kind of some smaller personal loans as well. Happy to be here, help out with Habitat and try to help everybody out with spending and savings plan. And with that, let's get going. I know everybody was kind of distributed a pre-training survey prior to the class. That's in the participant guide. I believe that's on page 25. So we'll just take a minute, let everybody flip there, and then there's 3 questions there. They're up on the screen as well. I don't believe you actually get all the answers. Yeah. I guess the other options C and D for question 3 got cut off on the slide, but they should be on your participant guide. I'll just give you about a minute or 2 to fill that out, and then we'll dive in. Oh, and if anybody has any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to just go ahead and drop them in the chat box, and Blaine will let me know if I need to address anything to help everybody's understanding and keep moving along.
And Blake, what we might do is for our participants, maybe we ask y'all to drop your answers to us in the chat.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. Then we can see what everybody's thinking ahead of time, and maybe at the end kind of steer people the right direction or something like that.
Yeah, don't be shy. So we can maybe, Blake, if you want to read those questions off like one at a time, maybe, and then for our participants,
thinking about your spending and savings plan is all it takes to manage your money. True or false? A spending and savings plan, A, records the value of your assets. B, tells you which bills to pay first if you can't afford to pay them all. C, lists your income and expenses. D, should not include gifts that you receive or give to others. E, all of the above. F, none of the above. Question 3, when you don't have enough money to pay all of your bills on time, A, prioritize which bills to pay in full, in part, or late based on what will happen if you don't pay the bill. B, ignore the people you owe until you are able to pay. C, hold off on paying any of your bills until you can pay them all. D, all of the above. E, none of the above. And then it doesn't show it on there, but there is a fourth question. If you spend more than your income can support, look for ways to A, increase your income, B, decrease your expenses, C, increase your expenses, D, decrease your income, E, none of the above, or F, both A and B. Those were the kind of pre-training questions. Everybody can just write their answers down and remember them. We will kind of foot back to these questions at the end of the presentation. All right. Section 1, key takeaway: use a monthly spending and savings plan to guide how you use your money. We will discuss how to create a spending and savings plan, and then we will dive into ways to increase your income and decrease your expenses. A spending and savings plan helps you compare your income and expenses, understand where your money is going, and make adjustments to guide how you use your money so you can meet your goals. Some people may call this a budget. We are using the phrase spending and savings plan, so it's clear we are planning for how we spend our money and also how we save our money. Spending and saving plans bring together two money topics: income, money you will receive, including earned income, income from assets and investments, public benefits or entitlements that pay money, other benefits or other entitlements that primarily offer benefits other than money, other income such as gifts, child support, and alimony. And then the other main top is expenses, how you use your income: saving, sharing, spending. When thinking about your income and expenses, it can be stressful, especially if you are worried about making ends meet. We're going to talk about and practice putting information about income and expenses into an overall monthly plan the processes can empower you to make choices and make changes if needed. In the long run, that can help reduce stress about your money. If you turn to page 4 in the participant guide, you will see this apply it section. This helps you create your own spending and savings plan, which can take time. We'll work on an activity using a completed spending and savings plan soon. It provides an opportunity to find ways to increase income and decrease expenses. But first, let's look at the blank spending and savings plan that starts on page 4 in your participant guide. You can complete this one with your own information after today's training. It's just there for kind of some basic support. If you look at this, it's on page 4. It kind of has two columns, the past monthly amount and then the budget. Doing both of these is critical, because if you do it on the historical, it'll show you where exactly you are today and whether you really need to make an adjustment or not. The budget and the projections will allow you to kind of broadly sit down and plan out where you want to make the changes once you realize what your current position is, whether that's kind of cash flow positive or cash flow negative. All right, filling out my savings and filling out my spending and savings plan. It has 3 parts. The first part focuses on your net income. Net income is your income after taxes and other deductions. Using net income means we don't include taxes as an expense. The second part focuses on your expenses. The third part is a comparison of your total net income and your total expenses to see if they are aligned. By aligned, we mean, does your income cover your expenses? There are detailed instructions for filling this out in your participant guide. And here's how we'll fill it out. First, complete the past monthly amount column to record your net income and your expenses based on past months. This will be most accurate if you have records reflecting at least 1 month of income and expenses. The best way to go find this information is to go to whoever your credit card provider is and just look at what your charges were for the last month. You could do the same thing with a debit card just to see what you're spending your money on to help fill this out. Next, you want to complete the planned monthly amount column. It includes a space for you to write which month you're planning for. So if we were doing this based off today, that next one would be June. Or for the future, for the past it'd be May, for the future it'd be June. You don't want to just copy the amounts from your expenses over. You want to think about whether you need to make an adjustment to that particular expense. For example, if you notice you want to put more money into your emergency fund, you may be able to cut back spending on groceries or household supplies, or maybe eating out to help make that change. You may be able to cut out an expense altogether. For example, a lot of people have cut the cable recently. So they've gotten rid of like their AT&T satellite TV and all of that. And then they can switch over to a subscription base. It costs a fraction, or just if you don't watch TV, you don't need that at all. But be sure that the amount you cut back or eliminate is realistic for you. You know, if you watch 5 hours of TV a day, you probably shouldn't cut out the cable. You should find something else. But generally, you only want to include income that you can count on and is recurring. That one-off thing where I sold an old shirt or coffee table to somebody and got a little money from that doesn't count. Please don't include that. But finally, you want to compare your total net income and your total expenses. This will help you see if your income covers your expenses. If not, you'll want to look at ways to adjust your income and or your expenses. You may have to do some math to get to monthly amounts for this spending and savings plan if you receive income or pay expenses on a schedule other than monthly. There is a table for calculating monthly amounts that can help out with this. But what we're getting at with that is like, I guess I know some people maybe pay their car insurance for the whole year in 1 month. I know you can save a little bit of money by doing that. That's just kind of one example for that. All right, when you compare your total net income and your total expenses, you will have 3 possible outcomes. If the difference you calculate in the comparison of my total net income and my total expenses section is 0, your income is the same as your expenses, and you should have just enough to cover your expenses. A positive number means you have more income than expenses, and you should be able to cover all of your expenses. This is also where everybody wants to be, because the money on top is things that you can spend for leisure, fun, or investments, which we'll get to a little later on. But if you do have a negative number, you have more expenses than income, and you would not have enough income to cover all of your expenses. You would need to make a change at that point. You can create your own spending and saving plan using this. Apply it after today's training. Use it to determine if you need to adjust your income and or your expenses to better meet your financial goals. Now we're going to practice on someone else's spending and savings plan. And maybe there's a couple examples in here that you could apply to yourself. So yeah, this should be it. So, okay, we'll get to that in a second. So I'm about to show you a blank spending and savings plan that has 3 sections: my net income, my expenses, and comparison of my total net income and my total expenses. To fill this out, please complete the column called past monthly amount first, then the planned monthly amount, and fill in the month. And then you want to compare your total net income and total expenses in both months. You want to go back historically to see where you're at, whether you're at break even, where your income just covers your expenses, or if you have that positive or that negative number. So once you get to that point, you need to figure out what changes you need to make. So you may have to do some. Okay, so let's flip over to the apply it. There are several ways to actively use your spending and savings plan throughout the month to gain control over how you use your money. Check the daily, weekly, and monthly spending and savings activities you want to try. If you have other ideas, add them. So the next couple of pages in your participant guide should be 13. I think we got ahead on this. Just 1 moment. Yeah. So let's just stick to this for a second. So I guess that's cut off. So, all right. Please turn to page 9 on your participant guide. I'm going to read the following scenario to you, and then we're going to go through the savings and spending plan for Shelly and Walter and see what potential changes we could make to their budget to help them get on track. So Shelly and Walter recently moved to a new city 8 months ago. They both have jobs. Walter also does freelance work on the weekends to bring in some extra cash. Their total net income is $3,100 per month. They are trying to save money towards an emergency fund, but their savings account is actually decreasing each month. That's because they are withdrawing money to cover expenses. They also would like to start a college fund for their granddaughter. They have tried to figure out where to save money, but everything seems non-negotiable. The utility bills have surprised them, especially gas in the winter and electric in the summer in their new climate. Shelly's car keeps needing unexpected repairs, and they can't seem to make much headway on paying down their credit card debt. Other costs are stable from month to month, but are essential. For example, the service animal expenses are necessary because Walter is blind. To better understand their income and expenses, Shelly and Walter completed income and expense logs last month. They used those to complete their spending and savings plan. Please take 3 minutes to review Shelly and Walter's spending and savings plan, then complete the table on page 12 of the participant guide and answer the questions. Let me know if any of the terms in the spending and savings plan are unfamiliar and I can elaborate on them. Please just share that in the chat box. once you've been through the past monthly amount, if you've gotten to a total net income amount, go ahead and share that in the chat, and we can talk about it. Does anybody come up with the answer yet?
Just want to jump in here for our participants. So reminder, if you didn't get the participant guide, we just dropped it in the chat as well. And we are on pages 9 through 12 in the participant guide. So we want to know, hey Bernice, we see you. We want to know, based on the information that we just ran through for Shelly and Walter, what would be their net income? Is anyone able to do that calculation and drop it in the chat? Yeah, hey Bernice, I see your comment in there. So it should be here in the chat box. Let me drop it in one more time just to make sure. So I just dropped it in again. That PDF that you just saw hopefully come through is a participant guide. Do y'all see that or no? Barbara,
I'm seeing it get in there, and I downloaded, but I don't want to try to open it and then lose my PowerPoint.
And by the way, it should also be in your email to our participants. If you registered for tonight's class, we sent it to all the registrants via email today as well. But maybe, Blake, maybe the easiest thing to do might be for us to screen share the participant guide, and I can do that if you'd like me to.
For this example, probably, because if they can't get the participant guide open, they're not going to be able to add up the expenses.
Agreed. Yeah. So why don't I do that real quick?
Okay.
So just a moment.
Do I need to do anything for that?
No, you're good. I'm going to share my screen as soon as I have this up. Yeah, Annette, thank you for that note. And we figured that might be the case, you know, especially if you're watching this off of, you know, a mobile device, that sort of thing. It can be hard, we know, to kind of toggle back and forth. So no worries, we got you. We will.
Yeah, we can go through it. I'll go through it. So obviously, if you're seeing the PowerPoint in the middle, their total net income is $3,100 per month. So your answer is right there for that. But on those pages that Blaine was trying to pull up, it basically added up the planned monthly expenses for April were going to be $3,165. So you were actually going to end up with a deficit of $65. So that's a negative 65, which means their expenses are $65 more than their income. So we will come back to Shelly and Walter's spending and savings plan in a little, while we think about ways that they can adjust their income. So the next, there a way to get back to the power?
Yeah, let me stop sharing my screen, Blake, and you can go ahead and share your screen again.
Okay. All right. So apply it using my spending and savings plan. On page 13 of the participant guide, it's kind of lays out a plan for ways to actively use your spending and savings plan throughout the month to gain control over how you use your money. Different solutions work well for different people. Some ideas are things you can do daily, others are things you can do once a week or once a month. Daily ideas include recording your saving, sharing, and spending. Saving your receipts is a good first step. In addition to using receipts to track your use of income, you can use them to check debit and credit card statements as well. There are also a number of apps and websites that can help you track your spending. And I can't reiterate this one enough, because this is one I've done multiple times for myself. Just keeping receipts. You don't have to keep every single receipt, but just having a general idea and remembrance of what you spent where comes in huge. Because I remember I went on a road trip one time and I used my credit card at a few places. And when I got back home, I looked at my statement and they had charged me for what I had used, but they had also gone in and charged me for $400 worth of stuff that I have no idea what was. So ended up kind of being able to find kind of that fraud that way by realizing, hey, I didn't spend all that money. And then collecting your change is another way. So you drop all your spare change into a drawer. This can help you build savings and keep your pockets or purse free of loose change. I mean, that one's on here, but I would say that's more of a littler one that comes in handy every now and then. But it's definitely meaningful. I remember I took an old cup and just started filling it with coins, and I took it to a Coinstar one day and there's $70 in there. It took like a year, but it does add up if you pick it up. Does anybody in the chat have any other ideas for how somebody might be able to save money on a daily basis?
Love that question. And hey, Blake, just FYI, while we're waiting on hearing from people, we can't see your screen quite yet.
Okay. So yeah, I'm trying to. What do you see right now?
Well, we can see you on video, but we don't see your screen.
Okay.
Do you see the option with the green arrow that says share screen?
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome.
Is this better?
Yes, we can see your screen now. Thanks for toggling back and forth with that. So while we're waiting on, there we go, perfect. While we're waiting on that, Chantrice says, putting small amounts away daily, like $5 if you can.
Yes, that is a great idea. I actually, one of my friends wanted to get into investing because he finally got himself to a place where his income was greater than his expenses. And he started investing. He was looking at various stocks, and the great thing is now is you can buy fractional shares. So people are no longer priced out just because, say, a share of Google costs like $2,000. Well, if I want to buy 50 cents or $1 worth of Google, I can now. And that's one way to just kind of micro investing, or not eating out. $7 to $15 daily. That's a big one for me personally. I do meal prep on most Sundays to cook for the week, because eating out just gets crazy expensive. But great ideas, guys. Keep them coming on. All right. So go back to weekly ideas. So putting limits on spending using the envelope system is kind of a general popular way that some people use. So if you label envelopes for categories of spending that you want to limit, such as groceries and household supplies and eating out or takeout, using your savings and spending plan, you can estimate how much you'll need on a weekly basis for each category. And then if you use only what is in the envelope for your spending, when the cash runs out, you're out for the week kind of thing. It's one way to help limit your spending so you don't overspend and say, oh, let's say I'm at the local burger place. I got my burger, but the fries and the shake and all of that looked good too. Sometimes you got to skip the shake or the dessert or whatever. The spending and savings plan represents a full month. So you can estimate weekly amounts for types of spending by multiplying the amount by 12 months in a year and then dividing that by 52 to get to a weekly number. Or for a quick estimate, you can just divide the monthly amount by 4. If you have cash left over in your envelopes at the end of the week, you could consider putting that money into savings or save up for a trip or save up for a house, like a down payment or something like that. But sometimes the items in your spendings and savings plan are fixed, such as your rent, and they don't really change month to month, and there's just not much you can do there. Other items are variables, such as groceries and household supplies, eating out, and entertainment expenses. The big one there for me is the groceries, because when I graduated school, I'd kind of gotten into the habit of, all right, like I'm just going to go buy these healthy organic groceries and all of that. And once I kind of got cut off by my parents, I stopped buying organic. My grocery bill went from about $130 a week to like 35 or 40, and that was huge for me right there. The envelope system works particularly well for variable expenses because you have more control over how much you spend on those items. Establishing a weekly money check-in. Set aside a convenient time and day of the week for you and members of your household to review your actual spending against your spending and savings plan and make adjustments. Compare how much you spent to how much you plan to spend for the full month. Is the amount remaining enough for the rest of the month? If it looks like you're going to overspend in a category, is it possible to make a change now? Look back at your variable expenses in particular. It is more likely that you can make changes to your spending for these items to get back on track if you recognize them early. So use this time to pay bills and make other smart financial decisions. Does anybody have any other ideas for spending on like a weekly basis? Shopping list. I like that. That way you don't show up to the grocery and just think everything tastes good. All right, let's go. All right. So some monthly ideas. Conducting a monthly review. Review records of your spending for the past month using an app, receipts, or your own log of spending. Compare how your spending and saving plan did and did not reflect what you actually spent. Reflect on what you want to do differently next month and create a spending and savings plan for next month that is realistic and aligns with how you want to use your money. And I can't stress enough the point of being realistic. Everybody needs to take a step back and ask, what is realistic for me? Because what's realistic for me, or what's realistic for Blaine or Chantrice or Porfirio or Annette or whoever is all going to be different. Um, so just making sure you keep that applicable to you. Um, and then having a monthly goal setting session. Have each family or household member write one or more goals for their spending and saving in the coming month. Be sure to also review progress towards the previous month's goals. One thing that I personally did to help me with some of this monthly savings and spending plans was I kind of came up with a little bit of a reward system for myself. If I can stick to my plan for, say, 3 or 4 months in a row, then I'll do something where I go out and treat myself. Like, hey, this week I know my budget says I'm only allocated to spend $50 eating out or whatever it may be. But hey, I'm gonna go get a little splurge one and maybe spend 75 or 80 this week because I was good for the past couple months. So and celebrate successes, For me, it's kind of that reward system. But another idea is, for example, you could declare a family or household member to be a money manager of the month and kind of just reward people and give them some praise for staying on top of it. But another thing is preparing for taxes. If your taxes aren't withheld by your employer at the end of the month, you want to identify expenses that may be important for tax time. Make sure to save the evidence of these expenses, such as receipt invoices or screenshots of online payments. I work with tax returns all the time, and there's some crazy things that people will do to kind of get ready for taxes or avoid taxes. For example, I'm not originally from Texas. I went to school down here, but I moved back home after and then kind of missed it. So I came back. When I moved back to Texas, my moving expenses were tax deductible because I had moved from one state to another. That's not necessarily applicable for everybody here, but there's random little things like that where you can end up saving money. So if you have some big expenses, check and see because they may be tax deductible. All right. So we've gotten some good ideas. Free events. Yes, that is another big one. Because then you can get out, you can get about, and you don't have to spend, say, $100 on a ticket just to show up. That doesn't get you anything there, because then you get there, you still got to buy drinks, pay for food, valet, or whatever it may be. All right. Let's talk about increasing income. You may be able to increase your income, which will help you cover your expenses or increase the amount of money you can save or share. Some activities may provide more income once or occasionally, such as selling items in a garage sale. Some activities may provide more income on an ongoing basis, such as taking on a part-time second job. Some activities may be long-term. You may have to devote some time before the strategy will generate income, such as participating in a local workforce development program. It may help you develop skills to fill high-demand jobs and increase your income over the long term. Can you guys think of any other ways to increase income? I'll throw one kind of idea out there that I know one of my friends uses. He still kind of has a very entry level position and all of that, and he sometimes has issues making ends meet. So he came up with the idea to start doing a little Uber on the side. He didn't really want the people in his car, so he just did deliveries and stuff like that, and said that flipped him from negative to positive, just adding that in for an hour or two a day kind of thing. Decreasing expenses. This is generally the difficult one for people because they have to make a decision about something not necessarily being necessary. You may be able to help decrease your expenses, which will free up some of your income. To decrease expenses, you need to think carefully about your needs, wants, and obligations. Needs are things you must have to live. So your rent expense is a need. Your green egg smoker out back is an absolutely necessary kind of thing. Wants are things you desire and can live without. Obligations are debts you owe because you borrowed money, such as a car loan or mortgage, made another type of agreement to pay them, such as for rent, or we've ordered to make them, such as like child support or alimony. Then think about 3 strategies: conserve, adjust, and do without. Conserve, what can you get cheaper or use less of? Adjust, what can you renegotiate over a longer term? Do without, what can you eliminate either right away or over the long term? I want everybody to think about some ways that they could reduce their expenses and share those in the group chat. Cable's got to go. I have made that move myself. It was painful, but I'm happier now. Spend more time outside. Ride share, that's another good one. I like it. I think we've covered kind of the eating out, so cooking. Another one would be conserve energy to cut your utility costs. For example, you might be able to turn out the lights and unplug electronics that keep using power even when they are powered down. Adjust the thermostat. Try to use less heat and air conditioning if possible. So that's less heat in the winter and less AC in the summer. Know around here that AC bill in the summer can get pretty expensive. So that was a big one for me. I don't really run my AC or heat until probably like 8:30 or 9 p.m. in the evenings to help keep some costs down. But shop carefully. Compare prices before buying, especially for costly items like cars and large appliances. Coupons or sales may not save you as much money as you might expect. For example, they won't save you money if they lead you to purchase more costly brands or items you don't normally buy, or to avoid shopping around. However, if something you regularly buy is on sale and truly costs less than what you normally pay, consider buying more than you usually buy. But only do that if you have space to store the extra amount and it will not spoil before you can use it. To me, this kind of section screams just, hey, let's go shop at like Kroger and Walmart versus we're going to Whole Foods and I don't know, some other expensive. Yes, rewards programs is great. A lot of the restaurants that I frequently visit don't necessarily advertise, but if you go look in the app store, they have rewards apps and stuff to where, hey, you might get a free taco, or you spend $50, we'll give you $5 or $10 back, kind of thing. So looking for that stuff is another way to save some money. But consider, store brands in bulk to reduce food costs. Somebody else pitched the shopping list earlier to avoid impulsive buying and buying only what you need. But make sure you're not paying too much for financial services. If you have an account at a financial institution, make sure you understand the rules of that account. For example, like using an ATM that is part of your financial institution's network. Like if you bank with Prosperity Bank and you go to one of our ATMs, there's no fee. If you go to a different bank's ATM, certain cases there is a fee. We waive it 3 times a month, so you can go wherever 3 times. But if you hit the Chase ATM once a week, on that fourth one, it's going to cost you like, I think $3 or $4. There's really, you don't want to. I'm the banker. I'm telling you, you do not want to pay those dumb expenses kind of thing. So if you go to other banks' ATMs all the time kind of thing, that's something you can talk about with your banker to help avoid some fees and just change your account type. All right. And also consider how you can reduce the risk of paying overdraft fees. Like if you're paying bills, just double check before you hit submit or pay that the money's in your account, because there's no reason to pay an overdraft fee unless you really have to. All right. Let's see. Another way to monitor your expenses would be to consider adjusting your cell phone plan. Let's see. You change your housing situation, kind of reduce the expense that way. Hold on, I do want to chime into Blaine real quick, though. We are kind of cruising through this and do have quite a bit to get through left. I can finish the first section, but I do want to make sure everybody can get to Q&A, because I'd love the chance to address people's individual questions to help them out. So
yeah, I think I would agree, Blake. Yeah, so maybe if you want to wrap up the section.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Let's get. Okay. So making adjustments. A spending and savings plan does not stay the same every month. It has to change to reflect your reality. That's why it can be that's why it can be a really useful tool. It can help you decide where you may need to change things. Adjusting it doesn't mean you have a bad plan. So one example of that, just think about holiday time around December, November, all that. There's Black Friday, big sales. Everybody's spending a little bit more money because they want to be able to get their loved ones like nice gift and all of that. So that's one of those months where it's perfectly normal to adjust your budget, and it's not a bad thing at all. I mean, most people I know would make an adjustment there for that. But let's return to Shelley and Walter and their spending and saving plan. When we compared their monthly income and expenses, we saw that their net income was not enough to cover their expenses. We can now think of ways they can adjust their spending and savings by increasing income and decreasing spending. You may not know for sure if your ideas will work for Shelley and Walter, but you can make suggestions given their priorities. So if you turn to page 17 on the participant guide and take a minute or two, you can write down some of your suggestions for Shelley and Walter on what they could potentially do to get back to being cash flow positive. So their expense breakdown is on page 10, 11, and 12 in the participant guide. So if you see any line items in that planned monthly amount for April that you think aren't necessary and they could cut out, go ahead and throw those items into the group chat. I think that's a great idea, Annette. All right. Well, so as a banker, I'll just kind of go through this real quick and highlight some of the things I'm seeing. So the savings towards the emergency fund and granddaughter are definitely important. Oh, here we go. The landline. Yeah, no, that is definitely a good idea. If you cut out one of the phone lines, you can just make it convenient for yourself. Everybody's calling one number instead, and you only have to pay for one phone. Yeah, that's a good one. I know some people had thrown out cutting cable. That's $125 right there. That would cover the deficit. One that I personally noticed was it looks like they had a big car, truck payment, insurance payment on that, maintenance, repairs, and fuel. Just seemed like it added up to like $700 a month. So given that they live in the city, they might be able to save money by getting rid of the car and taking some public transportation. They do use a lot of heating and cooling, so they may be able to save a little bit of money there. And they could also look at their entertainment budget and eating out budget. So that really kind of covers the rest of section 1. Section 2 is about what to do when money is short. And it's just kind of about prioritizing which bills. So since we're not going to go through that full section, the one thing I do want to make sure to say about that section is to prioritize what to pay first. And the best way to do that is to take a look at what the penalties are. If let's just say you're going delinquent on your electric bill for the first time, but you know they're not going to shut your electricity off till the end of the third month you don't pay. Well, in that particular case, if that's all the penalty is on top of just the accumulating bill, then that might be a bill where you can hold off on. But yeah, Chantrice, rent is absolutely and should be everybody's number one to pay expense, because if you don't pay your rent, your landlord will not be happy and you may not end up with a place to live. So rent is absolutely number one. And then kind of from there, it's person to person. Families are going to be different than individuals and all of that. But the key there is figuring out what the penalties are, because let's say the penalty wasn't just 3 months, then we shut it off. Well, what if, hey, you don't pay for 30 days, we're shutting it off, and then we're also charging you interest on that? Well, that might move its way up the priority list a little bit at that point. On page 21 of the participant guide, there's kind of a breakdown table that you could help put together or use as a template to gauge which bills to pay first. But yeah, sometimes making a small payment does help, but other times it does not. Sometimes it'll buy you a little bit of goodwill, but that's where figuring out the penalties and or talking with whoever you would owe money to. That's calling the electric company or talking to your landlord, or because maybe they will work out a side deal or something like that. But you just want to figure out what the penalties are so you know what the pay order needs to be. But with that being said, I will well, let's go over the questions for the pre-training survey. Or I guess take this time and adjust your answers if you want to. And in about 30 seconds, I'll go through what the answers are. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go over the answers because I do want people to be able to ask some questions. And also, I will be sending out some information to everybody tomorrow about some of the mortgage options that Prosperity Bank has. If anybody has any questions, they can just respond to the email. We do have some options for people that do involve no money down. There's just a couple of small fees, and then there's no private mortgage insurance or anything like that either. So it's 100% financing. It's definitely a really good deal. We do have some other products as well in the mortgage world, but ideally we'd love to see everybody get into their own home here at Prosperity Bank. So I would love to assist anybody with that kind of a process. If you need help working that way, I'm happy to help as well. So if you after this class fill out your own savings and spending guide, I'd love for you to email that to me, and then I could take a look and kind of give you some feedback from there. But yeah, it looks like everybody's getting their answers submitted. So I will go over the answers real quick. Question 1, was thinking about your spending and savings plan is all it takes to manage your money? The answer is false. Question 2, a spending and savings plan. The answer is C, list your income and expenses. Question 3, when you don't have enough money to pay all of your bills on time? The answer is A, prioritize which bills to pay in full, in part, or late based on what will happen if you don't pay the bill. Question 4, if you spend more than your income can support, look for ways to, the answer is F, both A and B. So increase your income and decrease your expenses. All right. I am happy to tackle any questions anybody may have over this presentation, over their current situation, or if they have any questions about kind of like a mortgage or anything like that, happy to answer it and help out there. If anybody's a little shy or doesn't want to put it in front of the whole group, feel free to respond to me individually to the email I send out tomorrow. But yeah, with that being said, hopefully you guys have a couple of questions. Would love to give you guys some good feedback here and provide you guys with the benefit.
Thanks so much, Blake, for this information. First of all, I want to thank all of our attendees. You all were super engaged tonight and answering questions throughout. So thanks for dropping your answers in. You guys had some awesome advice. Some things that honestly I've never considered before. Lindsay dropped in the chat that she, for a part of her saving strategy, is she saves all of her $1 bills and her $5 bills at the end of the day and sets those aside, and those are just automatically saved, which I think is an awesome strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some little programs out there too. I don't know if anybody's heard of, it's called Acorns. But basically what that does is, let's say I go to the store, I buy a soda and it's $1.37. On my credit card statement, it's going to round that $1.37 up to $2, and then it'll put 63 cents into an investment account for me. So I think that's actually a great strategy, because then you don't have to think about it too much. And at the end of the month, you can look at your Acorns account and see how much you've saved by actually spending money.
Right. I think it was Victoria earlier that said in the class tonight that she highly suggests making savings automatic, just, an auto withdrawal from our account. And we would agree, like any of these methods that are going to allow you to do these things mindlessly are the best way to go, especially something that can be difficult. Like
no, saving. I think somebody actually said that they were doing the system, and I was happy to hear that. It sounded like a couple of the some people were already implementing, and it was great to hear that.
So to our attendees, if you all have additional questions about, making a savings plan, making a spending plan, drop them in before we wrap up tonight. And while we're doing that, Blake, I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Oh, of course. I had a blast doing this. We had a great audience tonight. I like how there was a number of people very engaged and asking questions and answering questions. And hopefully everybody thought it was beneficial. And yeah, I'm happy to talk to anybody if they have any questions about their own personal situation or anything like that. Just happy to help out and do what I can.
I think what I want to, leave our attendees with is this is such a critical topic now more than ever with inflation, as it is, the prices that we're seeing, the market as it is. I mean, really tightening up our spending plan, our savings plan could not be more important.
So yeah, if people will notice if they look at their own savings and spending plan, especially in that kind of grocery or eating out section, especially like I wouldn't say I'm monthly, at least at this point. When I first got into like budgeting for myself and all that, it was, but now I'm a bit more into the habit of it. So it's definitely gotten a lot easier. But look, I've been cooking my own meals, taking them to work with me for the last 5 years now. And I can't even quantify how much money I've been able to save by doing that. It's definitely allowed me to do some other things because I made the decision to save there. But like it's to buy a house, house is space, and you're not having to pay somebody else's equity or interest down if you own your own home kind of thing. So being able to save up and like get things going the right direction, I think is hugely important. And I honestly think they need to be trying to teach some people these kinds of things like in high school, not waiting till people have taken on student loans and other obligations that are difficult to get out of.
We could not agree more at Habitat. And, for our clients, you all may already know this, but if you don't, I'd be happy to share. Habitat is actually now providing financial education right in the classroom of many DISD campuses for that exact reason, Blake. We really believe financial education needs to start when we are much, much younger. And so hopefully through the education that we're providing to all of our attendees who are here tonight, many of whom are parents, plus the education happening in the classroom, we can create some family conversations around money.
And the sooner that somebody can start saving, the better, because the way to think about it is like, let's just say I'm 20 years old and I invest $1. The general rule of thumb in finance is that dollar is going to double every 7 years if you just invest it and get normal market returns. But let's flip that. If I'm 30 and then decide, all right, I'm going to start saving that dollar right there, I've got 10 less years for that money to double. So, I mean, if I start earlier, I can have significantly more assets when I try to retire than if I wait. So I can't emphasize enough getting going on this sooner than later, because that's the most important thing, because then you have those years where your investments that you can save can compound and grow. And that's really how people make their money, is by having these types of investments and then just holding it and letting the market go to work.
And that's how we begin to build wealth, right? And of course, you all know here at Habitat, that's what we're all about, building wealth and intergenerational wealth, ideally. And then I want to
all start with the income and savings plan and making sure you can tackle your day-to-day expenses with the income you have coming in. Because I've seen people that make $60,000. And on paper, they have more than some people that make $400,000 a year. And it's all because of the way they spend that money. The person that made $400,000 was loving life, but they were spending every dollar of it. The person 60 was being responsible, saving, and all of that. I'll give you a hint. So yeah, just start early and do what you can.